The Orlando Magic entered their season declaring they are ready to compete for a championship. 49 games in and a blowout loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. We can definitively say they are not. Today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is February 4th, 2026. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You're a credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic entered the season declaring themselves ready to compete for a championship. Clearly, the goal this year was to begin pointing toward a championship. No, we are 49 games into the season, and a 36-point loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder would suggest this team is far away from that goal. What Tuesday's game said about the Magic and their lost identity. We're going to get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, sometimes reluctantly. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day. Every day you can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day by being one of our Orlando Magic dailies, our everydayers who listen 5 days a week, who listen on the weekends when we do our weekend episodes, who listen as part of their regular podcast rotation to make us your first listen of the day, who are part of our everydayer club. We want to thank you again for making the Locked On Magic community such a good community. Not a great season, but a good community. And we want to thank you for helping make the Locked On Podcast Network the number one sports podcast network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. At the beginning of the season, the Orlando Magic did something they do not do very often, at least under Jeff Weltman. They did not hide from their ambitions. They made it very clear what they believed they were capable of doing. The excitement was not just felt among the fan base. It was fed by the team itself. Players were openly talking that we can win a championship. We can get to the Eastern Conference Finals, not just that we can win a playoff series. We can win a championship. My goal is always to hold the team to the standards they set for themselves, to speak their language. And here, it was unequivocal what the Magic hoped to accomplish this season. And again, maybe this season wasn't the championship season. I think I've said this before, but I'll say it now. This season was about determining whether the Magic are pointing toward a championship. They got the roster, they got the talent, they've spent the money. It's a question of whether they are moving in that direction. They were clearly unsatisfied with being the 7th seed last year. Even if they were healthy, they clearly saw we do not have enough. They pushed their chips into the middle of the table. And here we are. Here we are, game 49. 49 games into this thing. Facing the defending champions. Facing the team that if you think you're a championship contender, you're going to have to beat. And I know the Magic beat the Denver Nuggets early this year. They beat the Detroit Pistons early this year. They've beaten some good teams this season. But at the end of the day, as the great Ric Flair used to say, to be the best, you got to beat the best. And here you are. Even with the injuries, even with all the uncertainty, a chance to just show face. A chance to measure yourself up against the best team in the league. Your first opportunity to do so. And you lay not just a giant egg. You essentially rage quit. You essentially just don't show up at all. The Magic were dead in the water in a 128-92 loss to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And again, I want to make this clear. There is no shame in losing to the Thunder. It's not the fact that the Magic lost. That's the problem. It's that the game was over in the first quarter. It's that they were down 39-14 after one quarter, down by 25 and essentially just treading water the rest of the way. They got no closer than 23 in the second half after they trailed by 27 at halftime. We'll get to the box score and we'll talk about why this happened. But at the end of the day, like, yes, we know the Magic can't shoot. They have bad shooting nights still. 38.2% shooting overall, 13 for 41 from three. They made more threes, and shooting wasn't the issue because Oklahoma City only made 34% of their threes and only 12 total three-pointers. This is a problem, and this is a game that was simply about a team that knows how to operate at a championship level, has complete trust and faith in themselves, going up against a team that might have the same kind of camaraderie that the Thunder have, or they think they do. But they don't have the trust. They don't have the belief. And frankly, maybe they don't have the players. Their number one is not Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Their number two right now is not, well, their number two is Franz Wagner, and Jalen Williams is also on the bench. So they got that going. Both their number twos are sitting on the bench injured right now. But their number three, Desmond Bane, struggled to get free. This is not a championship team. This is not a team pointing toward a championship. This is a team with major issues, major flaws that perhaps some changes to front office and to some personnel will fix. But at the end of the day, the five players who started this game, who are meant to set the tone for this team, who are meant to give this team their best shot at beating a championship level team, got run off the floor. They missed a couple open threes to start the game, and I thought the Magic's energy on both ends was really good through the first 2 or 3 minutes. They missed a couple threes, and the whole thing collapsed. The Thunder didn't even play that well. It took them a while to get going, but when you play an elite team and give no resistance, and you're missing shots, and you're rushing, and you're pressing, and you're trying to hit home runs when all you really need is to get on base, you're going to lose. And that's the secret. That is the secret to championship teams. It's not about the big plays. It's not about the big runs. It's not about the highlight reel stuff. This is what championship teams understand. It's not about highlight reel stuff. It is about doing the same thing over and over again. It is about not getting bored with the simple. It's about executing the simple. The Thunder run an offense that's very similar to Orlando's. It's about movement and reads and actions, not set plays. They're not running crazy pin downs or complicated plays. They're running the same kind of sets the Magic have offensively. And why is Oklahoma City so successful? Well, maybe they run a few more handoffs for shooters to shoot off the dribble. Maybe frankly, they have better players. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is going to shoot 50% on a diet of mid-range shots that force you either to foul him because he's going to drive the basket or force you to bring extra help to keep him shooting. That opens up shooters and gets everything in motion. I don't want to put all this on Paolo, but it's the same thing I've been saying all year. This is about leadership. Your team needs you to step up. And when Paolo got his opening shot blocked by Chet Holmgren, he started settling for jumpers. He didn't score in the first quarter when they were down 39-14. He didn't carry his team through the struggles. He didn't give them a solid beat. It seemed he just gave in to the frustration. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the most boring superstar in the league, and that is by design. Because all he does is be excellent. All he does is care about and be good. Even on bad games, which he did not have a bad game in this one. He didn't need to do very much in this one. And so the Magic are just as far away from a championship as they have been during this playoff run. They were closer to a championship last year, which is saying something when the Magic were under 500 at this time last year. They're 24-25. Magic are only one game ahead of that. If this is what the Magic are going to be, then they have failed this season miserably. Failed it miserably. There is nothing to say when you get run off the court by any team by 36 points. I say it a million times. You lose by 30. The Magic trailed by as much as, I believe, 40 in this game, 41 in this game. When you lose by 30, it says more about the losing team than it does the winning team. And that is what the Magic have to reckon with. Maybe they needed to be embarrassed. They got embarrassed 2 weeks ago against Charlotte, so I don't know why they would need to be embarrassed again. But here we are asking the same questions, the same deal, the same issues. Why are the Magic getting off to such slow starts? Why do the Magic quit? Why do the Magic not stay committed to their game plan? And quite simply, the answer is they've lost their identity. They've lost the thing that made them special. And before we could talk about winning a playoff series, before we could talk about climbing the standings, before we could talk about winning a championship, the Magic got to find their identity again. That's what we'll talk about next, coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. It is the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same-game parlay, this is the game everyone has been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to final whistle. If you are a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. This is the last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The NBA trade deadline is here. It's already here. James Harden's on the move. Nikola Vucevic is on the move. Jaren Jackson Jr. is on the move. What is it going to bring to us Wednesday and into the day on Thursday? Well, if you want to keep up with everything going on at the trade deadline and talk to the smartest basketball fans out there, you need to join the Everydayer Club, because we want to give you a free month of our new Everydayer Club to help you get through the trade deadline. If you need a group chat to keep up with the chaos, join ours. The Everydayer Club gets you access to a group chat on Discord just for Magic fans, plus national chats where you can hang out with fans from across the league. I'm usually hanging out in there. Just ping me and I will jump in, and I keep track of the chat throughout the day. We're still a young community, we're still small, but we are growing quickly. You also get the ad-free version of this show, and if you sign up by the trade deadline on February 5th, you can use code DEADLINE to get your first month free. I'm also trying to figure out how to get my other premium services available to you on the Everydayer Club. That is still in the works, so it's not going to be available right when you join, but there's a lot of great reasons to join our Everydayer Club. Tap the link in the show notes or visit lockedonmagic.supercast.com. That's lockedonmagic.supercast.com to learn more. This is the ultimate question. Again, we're 49 games into the season. The Magic are who they're going to be. Like, there's not some drastic change. The trade deadline's happening. Maybe that'll bring some new players or some new faces, but there isn't a magic wand to wave that turns this team into the team we all expected in the preseason, in October, September, August, whenever. Franz Wagner's return is going to help. This team is too talented. They are too good. They are not missing the playoffs. They will win in the play-in tournament if they have to go through the play-in tournament. They'll beat Miami a seventh time if they have to. Although we'll see if Miami ends up with Giannis or not. I am still very much convinced that they're going to fight their way into the 6th seed. I think they will avoid the play-in, because when Franz Wagner's healthy, this team is still just too good. They're too talented. But obviously, that's not what we're playing for. And maybe that's just copium. Maybe that's just me being the optimist that I am. I fully admit I am an optimist. I believe the best things are going to happen. And, I would have said 2-3 weeks ago that the 4th seed was still possible. I'm backing off that. It's going to be the 6th seed. We'll be going to Boston, to New York, to Toronto, perhaps. Maybe Cleveland now that they have James Harden, although I'm not a huge fan of that move for Cleveland. This is this this is all just going back to these core issues. Look, I I read all the comments. I know what everyone's saying beneath me, and I know what everyone is talking about online. Um, a lot of people want the coach to be fired, and I think I made myself clear on where I stand on this. I'm not at the point where I think Jamal Mosley should lose his job. I'm just not, and every indication that I have been given from talking to my Magic sources, they all indicate to me that this front office believes that injuries have been the problem. That when Franz Wagner's back, they'll be better. Now, will they be as good as they need to be? I don't think so. I think there are issues that are deeper than that. And I do think that the way things are trending, the way things are going, we're probably looking at the need to make a coaching change in the offseason. I love Jamal to death. One of the great people I've met in this business. I think he is a really good coach. Anyone who's saying he can't coach is a liar. He's a really good coach. But he's not the coach this team needs right now. He's not, again, I believe coaches have roles. His role is to rebuild and to build the foundations for a really good team. And maybe he's not the coach to lead them to a championship. That's okay. That's fine. And part of this season was figuring that part out. If it's obvious, then it's fine. But that's part of the life cycle of a team. Like you graduate from your development coach unless you're Oklahoma City, and then you just lucked into Mark Daniel and lucked into the right group that could grow with a coach, and a coach could grow with them. It's very, very rare what Oklahoma City's done. I want to make that clear. It's not unusual for teams to go through the struggles that Orlando's gone through. Detroit went through it 2 years ago, and now look where they're at. So maybe we're 2 years away from that. Maybe we're a year away from that with the right coaching hire. But at the end of the day, everything about this team comes down to one inescapable fact. This team has no identity. If you ask the Magic, if you ask them who they are and what they're about and what they lean on, they would all say we are a physical, tough-nosed defensive team. My question is, where is that? Are you? Because we haven't seen that kind of defense in a very, very long time. That's the truth of the matter. We have not seen this team be a dominant, forceful defensive team in a very long time. And that is, to me, ultimately the question. That is, to me, ultimately the big solve for this team. If you would have told me at the beginning of the season that Orlando would be 16th in offensive rating, and they've climbed to 16th in offensive rating before this dud of a game. But if you would have told me the Magic were 16th in offensive rating, I would have said we are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. That is all the Magic needed, was a competent offense. And I will agree, they are not as good as that rating. They have major offensive issues. There are a lot of things to fix and a lot of things that do not make sense about this team. But I would have said, like, if we're 16th, we are in good shape because that defense is going to carry this team. The biggest thing I cannot make sense of this year, and look, I agree, the Magic downgraded defensively and probably downgraded more than they thought they did. And one of the tasks at the trade deadline is to try and add someone who can do another two-way player that can help stabilize their bench a little bit. But I cannot figure out why this team has lost all of its defensive character. Poor shooting is not an excuse. When I watch this team be a worse shooting team last year, significantly worse last year, the way they shoot, as frustrating as it's been, has been like manna from heaven compared to last year when they were 31% from three. They're like 33, 34%. That's a huge difference. I do not understand how this team is allowing its shooting and its offense to affect it in a way they did not last year? Is it just about a matter of having better defensive players, having more defensive-minded players who didn't care about their shooting and didn't let it affect them? This is the difference between this year and last year. The Magic would be in really great shape if they defended at the level they defended at last year. But this year, they can't keep anybody in front of them. They're giving up loads of points in the paint and got completely crushed in the paint in this game. They are, I don't even know what they're good at defensively. Like, I would say statistically, they're great at rebounding. They obviously weren't in this game. And I think the perception around fans is that they're a terrible rebounding team. Statistically, they're still one of the best rebounding teams in the league on both sides of the ball. It doesn't feel that way, though. And some of that is because they've gotten a lot less offensive rebounds than they did earlier in the season. And I was feeding their offense a little bit and helping keep their offense alive. There's just no toughness about this team right now. I have no other way to describe it. There's no resiliency. And that was always a key character trait of this team. And look, yeah, Orlando has the most games coming back from 10 down in the league. They've won the most games, I think, trailing by 10 points or more in the league. They're resilient in that sense. When everything is going right, like, we see how clearly good this team can be. When everything is working, we see what's functioning. We see what works. And yet, they can't duplicate that. It's all dependent on the ball going in the basket. And look, you got to make shots to win. Like, I said this early in the game. Orlando started like 3 for 10, 0 for 4 from 3. And it was just like, they're getting some good looks, but if they're not going to make shots, it's not going to matter. Like, you're just going to get beat. So I got to ask again, like, this is a 500 team. They're 14th in entering Tuesday's game, so I'm sure it's changed. They were 14th in the league in defensive rating, 16th in the league in offensive rating. This team is literally the definition of mid, if I use that term correctly. They're literally the definition of mid. Middle of the pack, middle of the league, one game over 500, below the Mendoza line on net rating. This team is mid. And they're going to remain so until they figure out what they're actually good at. Are they the defensive team they believe they could be? Are they the resilient team that they were last year? When you play the elite teams in the league, they test your resolve. They test who you are. Because they're going to try and take away your favorite things. And your ability to execute, your ability to stay composed, your ability to keep doing the things that you are supposedly good at, despite them loading up against it, that's what championship teams do. That's what the best teams in the league do. And that's what the Magic did for a good chunk of last year. Their offense was so bad, it didn't matter in the end. But Boston didn't want to see him in the first round. Boston hated the fact they had to play the Magic in the first round. But this team, this is the team everyone wants to play in the first round. Like, yeah, sure, they got Paolo and Franz, they got Bane, they got the potential. And again, maybe we'll see it when they get healthy. And maybe we'll look back and say, yeah, it really was all the injuries. Reshuffle the bench, reshape the bench a little bit, maybe bring in some new ideas offensively. Like, who knows? But we played 49 games. Like, we're more than halfway through the season. We're nearing the 3-quarter mark of the season. We're still like 12 games away. And I can't tell you what this team is good at. That is the problem. And you can blame coaching, certainly plays a role. You can blame the players, certainly plays a role. You can blame management for getting some things wrong. Tyus Jones turned out to be pretty wrong. That's certainly part of it. But something that felt so secure, something that felt so certain, is not certain anymore. And that's why the Magic find themselves where they are. They don't have an identity. The Thunder clearly do. The Thunder know exactly who they are. I don't think this Magic team does. Let's put this game to bed. We'll run through the box score, talk a little bit about what we saw from individuals coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at Quo. New year, new systems. This is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of how we run our business and think there has to be a better way. I know Magic fans are doing that right about now. And there is. Streamlining your communications is one of the quickest upgrades you can make. That's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Q-U-O. The smarter way to run your business communications. Because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one place, you're not just working cleaner, you are creating more opportunities to connect with others. Quo makes everything so simple. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everyone sees the full conversation thread, which makes replies faster and more personal. It works right from your phone or computer, and you can even keep your existing number. It's no surprise Quo is the #1 rated business phone system on G2, trusted by more than 90,000 businesses from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off the first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Quo, QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. Everybody loves to be in the arena for the big NBA game. It's going to feel like a while since the Magic had a big NBA game, but everyone loves it. The crowd, the energy, the moment. Getting tickets, though, that's the part nobody likes because it hasn't been simple. That's why Game Time has become the go-to app for scoring tickets fast without the hassle. It puts the advantage back where it belongs, with the fans. You can pull up the Game Time app, pick an upcoming NBA game, and have tickets locked in within minutes. You can see all-in prices up front, no surprise fees at checkout, and you'll be able to see the view from the seat before buying, making the decision easy. With zone deals, you could choose the section, and Game Time will pick the seats, and you will save. With great last-minute options, too, for NBA tickets showing up at solid prices, it's all quick, intuitive, and stress-free from start to finish. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. That's the code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today, and remember, it's gametime.co, not .com. I am truly sorry that we have to do this, but we're going to run through the box score, put a wrap on this game as the Oklahoma City Thunder defeat the Orlando Magic 128-92. Again, the Thunder led 39-14 after the first quarter. The first quarter stats are just astounding. The Thunder shot 15 for 25, 4 for 9 from 3, 5 for 7 from the foul line. The only place the Magic had an advantage was at the foul line, where the Magic went 6 for 6. They only took 11 free throws in the game. The Thunder had 2 offensive rebounds, 1 turnover. The Magic had 5 turnovers for 8 points. So the Magic just kept on making mistake after mistake after mistake that just fed the Thunder's offense. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander had 10 of his 20 points in the quarter, was 4 for 6, just got to his spots. Again, just zero resistance. Zero, not allowing him to get to his spots. And again, the Magic made mistakes. They turned the ball over. It was a lot of them just forcing things. Like, it really just felt like they felt the pressure of, we're missing shots. We got to do something. We got to make plays. And they didn't. Orlando got outscored 14-4 in the paint. And if there's one area where the Magic cannot lose, it is in the paint. They were 2 for 9 in the paint in the first quarter alone. Again, this game was over in the first quarter. I really don't even need to say the rest of the stats, because the first quarter was the game. And look, all these numbers continue. Thunder won fast break points 13-2. All these numbers continue. It was 24-11 fast break points for the entire game. Orlando was 4 for 7 on fast breaks. It was 24-10 on second chance points. Thunder are the worst offensive rebounding team in the league. They're not last. They're last in offensive rebound rate. They didn't even convert on every offensive rebound. It was 9 for 14. Orlando only getting 10 points off 10 offensive rebounds. Thunder getting 24 off 14. Again, that's just not going to work for Orlando. And ultimately, this is the big number. The Thunder outscored the Magic 60-26 in the paint. Orlando was just 13 for 31 in the paint. So, like, the Magic, did not get in the paint enough. Even if they made all of their shots in the paint, they would have barely beaten the Thunder by 2 on that front. The Thunder are the best team at defending the paint. And again, the Thunder are a historically good defensive team. It would have been asking a lot for even this Magic team, which, again, is better offensively than you think, but is struggling right now. If they can't score, they couldn't break this Thunder defense. Everything was just so stagnant. Players were starting to force things because they couldn't break through this defense, this wall. And Orlando, again, just didn't have the right ideas to beat this defense. And again, that is on coaching. That is just the style the Magic play, for right or wrong. It's very, very clear the Magic needs some new ideas and some new schematics defensively. Again, offensively. I've been very, very clear about this. I hope I've been very, very clear about this. So I'll be very, very clear about it now. The Magic need to rip this offense to the studs. Like, you could keep some of the same players. There's still clearly some skilled offensive players, but the system and the style that they play does not fit their personnel and does not advantage them. At the end of the day, again, like, I'm a big critic of Paolo Banchero. And again, challenge. I'm challenging him. In the first quarter, he was 0 for 4 for 0 points. It's not everything. And Orlando was 4 for 22, 0 for 10. So, like, again, the Magic they didn't help themselves. They didn't get to the paint. They missed all their threes. They got some good open threes. Oklahoma City's could give you some threes, but Oklahoma City put so much pressure on you. You could just kind of feel the Magic pressing, and with each miss, the weight got heavier. And again, like, this has been my big challenge of Paolo Banchero this year. And we all said this when Franz went out. It's like, this is Paolo's chance to prove he can carry the team, to silence all of his critics. And look, Paolo, for the most part, has gotten his numbers. Like, he is putting up all-star numbers. He didn't end this game. Paolo finished the game with 17 points on 6 for 17 shooting, 4 for 4 from the foul line, 4 assists, 2 turnovers, only 3 rebounds. Paolo did not have a good game, but he's been largely good for the last month, since December 29th. He's mostly been good. But this has been my challenge. It's like, when everything is hard, you've got to be the one to break through. And really, from the moment Chet Holmgren blocked Paolo's first attack at the rim, he started settling for jumpers in that first quarter, and it just created this sort of passive mindset for the team. When your best player, and again, the Magic need to do a better job getting the ball to Paolo in spots where he can score. They put Isaiah Hartenstein on him. They wanted Chet Holmgren roaming off of Wendell Carter, and Paolo really wasn't able to beat him off the dribble. Again, jumper just really didn't fall till the second quarter. And look, he got his numbers. He had a decent game after that, but by then it was too late. The game was over. It's just, I've been begging and asking, you need your best players to set the tone for your team. Like, again, like everyone takes their cues from the leaders. And whether Paolo wants it or not, he is a leader on this team. And it's something I've asked him about a little bit. And it's something he says he knows he has to improve on. And I was very happy that he answered it that way. And acknowledged that is an area of his game that he needs to keep getting better at. But again, these are all games. Like, all of these games count. All of these games matter. And again, there's no shame in losing the Thunder. I'm not freaking out about a loss of Thunder. When I said last week, entering the game against Miami, that the Magic needed to go 5-3 in their last 8 games, I had the Magic losing both of these games. I am not shocked they are 2-2. Toronto was a swing game that I felt like they needed to win. Very clearly, I'm expecting them to drop a game somewhere that they shouldn't drop, perhaps. But I'm expecting them to go 3-1 on this homestand, and then we'll be and then they'll have won 5 of their last 8, and we'll be able to kind of breathe a little sigh of relief. Honestly, it really does feel like the Magic need to win all 4, and we'll talk about that on tomorrow's episode of the podcast. I do want to draw that out, but we are getting to a point where the Magic got to make a move, and the Magic got to find some confidence and build some confidence in themselves. And the next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So the next week, 7 days, they got 7 days to point their season back in the right direction. And a lot can happen. A lot can happen in 4 games. A lot can happen in 7 games and 7 days. Like, we're obviously going to have the trade deadline on Thursday. That's a big deal. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I've already like scrapped this game. Like, I told you what happened this game. Look, the only other important thing to know about this game is Jalen Suggs found himself a little bit. 20 points, 6 assists. He's been passing the ball really well. He had 3 turnovers, all of them in the first quarter. once he's settled down with the turnovers, and yes, Jalen Suggs needs to settle down with his turnovers and be a little more protective of the ball. His passing's been really good since he came back. He finally got his shot to go down. We talked about Jalen Suggs a few days ago. He got his shot to go down, 7 for 11 shooting, 4 for 8 from 3. And if that is what the Magic get out of this game, I'm not going to call it a success, but that is a good thing. So hopefully this is Jalen Suggs finding a rhythm, and maybe sometimes you need a game like this to get your rhythm. But other than that, Anthony Black was 5 for 16, 0 for 6 from 3. That's obviously a huge problem. 6 rebounds for 10 points. Magic got 11 points from Noah Pendo, a lot of that in garbage time. Mo Wagner had 8 points, generally played a solid game. I thought his defense was a little suspect, but we understand that. Again, it was just a lot. The only other interesting thing to note about this game is Goga Batadze did not play. I wonder what that could mean. Maybe it means nothing. It might mean nothing. It probably means nothing. Go listen to yesterday's podcast to see if it means something. Desmond Bane only had 7 points on 3 for 7 shooting. He fouled out, picked up another technical foul. I thought Bane was trying hard, just couldn't break free. The Thunder are just a juggernaut, and the Magic aren't in their league. And so, yeah, that's the takeaway. I don't know what else to say. The Magic want to be in the Thunder's league, and they are not. That is the statement. And that statement is the driving force behind the next 48 hours or however long you're listening to it. Until 3 p.m. on Thursday, that is the statement. We will talk more global things tomorrow. We'll do a final trade deadline preview. We will talk big picture stuff. Maybe the trade will happen, but we're still going to talk big picture stuff and big issue problems, because whatever trade the Magic might do in the next 2 days, that's not going to fix the problems. It's not. There are deeper issues on this team. And frankly, a coaching change may not completely fix the problems. I don't think a midseason coaching change is going to do anything, to be perfectly honest. I'm serious. You could agree with me. You could disagree with me. I don't think a coaching change does anything. There might be a momentary jolt, and maybe that is what the Magic need. But you're still going to fall back into these bad habits. These are habits now. We're 49 games into the season. This team is not meaningfully changing without a meaningful change to the roster or a complete offense or a complete philosophical overhaul. And you're not doing that midseason. You don't do that midseason. It's not bad. Last year at times felt bad. Oh no, they're not going to make playoffs. The Magic are good enough. And again, they'll get Franz Wagner back. They are good enough. They're going to be in the play-in. They're not missing the playoffs. And again, they don't have their own draft pick, so there's no reason to tank. Thank God. The question is whether they'll be good. They'll get themselves together, show enough proof of concept that they'll get the 6 or they'll compete for the 5. Still very within reach. Orlando's only 3 losses back in the loss column behind Toronto. They're not out of this by any stretch. It's going to take some doing. It's going to take some work, but they're not out. As I've always said, it's all in their power. These problems, this identity issue, it's all in their power to fix. These are not, the Thunder are a good team. They're going to force you into mistakes, whatever. But you don't lose by 30 if you don't mess up. These players are too good. The talent in this league is too great. You only lose by 30 if you quit. Or, frankly, you only lose by 30 if you quit. And the Magic let go of the rope for far too long in that first quarter. They found it again. They competed. They treaded water for the second and third quarter. Hang the banner in Madison Square Garden for that one. But yeah, this isn't what any of us signed up for. This just isn't. And the players, I've said this a million times, players got to do some soul searching to find out who they are. Coaches got to do some work to get the players to realize who they are. And we're 49 games in the season. This should have been done already. Let's get this team home. Let's get this team healthy, and let's see where the chips fall in the next 2 days. The Thunder again defeat the Orlando Magic 128-92. Orlando is back in action to start a huge 4-game homestand on Thursday against a very much worse offensively Brooklyn Nets team. That may not matter if you don't play defense, but big opportunity here on this homestand. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, as well as get you ready for the trade deadline as well. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the places along podcast to your podcast enable device. You can check us out as well on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. You can also check out our Everydayer Club and get access to the ad-free audio feed, plus members-only Discord access. And I am still attempting to get you access to my Patreon, or find a way to get you access to my other subscription services through our Everydayer Club. Make that added bonus for you as well. So be sure to check out our Everydayer Club at lockedonmagic.supercast.com. Again, that's lockedonmagic.supercast.com. For those of you on video, we're going to send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen NBA game night on Locked On NBA. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We will be back tomorrow for our final word before the trade deadline. If the Magic do anything, I'll have a short up for you on that on the YouTube page, as well as on socials. And we'll break that trade down, or break that down. If it needs to happen immediately, it'll happen immediately. I'm not anticipating an immediate need for that at this deadline. But then again, things are rotten right now. So we will break down the last bits of things we have to break down before the NBA trade deadline. We'll preview the upcoming homestand, plus we'll talk about the big issues that the trade deadline will not solve. We're going to get all that on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Magic. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.